Hello and welcome back. We are four struggling filmmakers. We've been off struggling away, but we are back to give you a summer special. My name is Emma. Joined me is Noah,
Hello again.
James,
Hello.
and Jimmy.
Hello.
So, yes, we're talking about our favourite summer movies. But before all that, recommendations?
I think most of us have seen Top Gun Maverick, haven't we?
Not yet.
Yeah.
I have.
What?
No, it's the
Just
only
Noah
one.
who hasn't. What did we think?
It was it was good.
But
I enjoy. No, I actually enjoyed it. It had a lot less of the whole Tom Cruise's God kind of thing in the way like that he looks, and more like focusing on the actual planes and things. Obviously, it had to have at least one all tops off and all of that. It was in the first one. It was the volleyball scene. This one we've
yeah,
got the sunset American football, which is actually really nicely done.
yeah, it was a nice callback to the era of homoeroticism.
It
Bring it
yeah,
back.
I thought it was good, and I liked the fact that it was pretty much all real.
Yeah, it made a big difference, didn't it? It was one of the most cinematic cinema experiences in a long time.
I liked this one and the original about the same, but for very different reasons. Like the original was way more cheesy and a lot more fun, but this one's like a better film. But you can definitely tell they took a lot of care to make this look as good as it did.
Yeah.
Maybe at the cost of some of the charm that the original had, but hey ho, I still enjoyed it.
I think there's another film we've all seen. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Yeah,
We
spot
have,
on.
yeah, that is one we have all seen.
It is, yes.
I kind of sat there and just was like, what is going on? It just was one of those films where it just sort of washes over you. And when someone asked you, so my boyfriend asked me straight up, he was like, so what did you think of that? And I was like, I don't know. And it's one of the first films I've actually been there and I've been like, I actually don't know. I can't
Very
tell you what
overwhelming,
happened.
especially on a first watch. It's just a bit like,
Yeah.
Definitely.
it is
Yeah,
everything.
because you've seen it twice, haven't you, James? I think you said that to me, either just before or just after we watched it. You said it is a heck of a lot to take in. There's so much content, isn't there? So much theme and substance. But I thought as a cinema experience, it was pretty flipping amazing.
I thought it was pretty good. And I don't know why it's got the hype and everything, but pretty good.
I think
I
it's
agree. It was.
pretty groundbreaking though. I think it breaks a lot of rules of cinema.
It breaks all the rules.
It does. Yeah, it breaks the
There
rules of
are no
story.
rules, really, though, are there?
Well, that's the point of the film.
I
It
like
was crazy.
the Wong Kar-wai in the mood for love bit. I would have liked to have done Taxa's review in the laundromat. That was a lovely bit.
Oh yeah.
But I
that
did
was
get a
quite
little
sweet.
bit tired halfway through because it is
Yeah, I
kind
kind of
of
looked at my watch.
exhausting.
A lot of the craft of the film is very impressive. I think the thing that really got me is how well this film is edited, for like how chaotic it seems going from place to place and character to character, and like you're in the head of Michelle Yeoh, just sort of going here, there, and everywhere, and it's just insane how you can still manage to keep track of basically everything that's going on, because each story sort of leads to its own
Yeah.
satisfying emotional payoff, where you're like, oh, okay, even though it's a bit much, especially as I said on a first watch, it still makes sense thematically, and yeah, it's quite impressive, especially for a film that a lot of people are enjoying.
It wasn't as good as The Northman, though, that came out a couple
Oh.
months before it.
Oh yeah,
They're very
no, it was
different
better than
films,
The
but
Northman.
I like The Northman as well.
I think
I actually haven't seen The Northman yet.
It's
It's about a
good.
man from the north. I liked how it played with how much of the like mysticism or the like supernatural aspects are actually there, or is it just the way they kind of way people would have perceived things at the time, like particularly the scene with the Draugr type thing.
it hasn't really been a box office a success, though, has it? Which I
Unfortunately
think
not.
will mean Robert Eggers will probably go back to low budget.
I mean, he's done well
Yeah.
enough doing the small stuff, and he was very lucky just to at least one time for him to get like, oh, here's like $80 million to make your one massive movie.
So we're talking about films that make us feel all summery and our favourite summery films. I think we should just dive right in with Noah's pick.
Oh, okay.
We've
Singled
actually done
out
it a
now.
bit differently this time as well, because none of us know
It's a
what everyone's
mystery.
picked.
Let's
No,
hope
Yeah,
we end in
okay.
the same films.
I'll start things off. I'm going to keep it very simple. Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused.
Hey.
Again,
Easy peasy. Who would have thought it? A film about a group of school kids breaking up for school for summer. It is a film you can just chill out on a summer's evening with a can of beer, and you can just watch it at 12 o'clock at midnight. That's like a good time to watch it, I think, after you've just had a bit of party. Or you could watch it whilst you're at a party in some ways. Uh, it's just a really good
or
film.
in other ways, it is the party.
Exactly. It's just the best summer film. And you could even add Everybody Wants Some to that as well, which I think Jimmy's a
Yeah,
bigger fan of that one than Dazed and Confused. But,
more on that later.
but yeah, I think it's got to be Dazed and Confused for me because, like I said, it's just sort of a perfect film to relax to and enjoy on a summer's evening.
But what is it you love so much about Dazed and Confused, there, except for its vibe? And it is a real. If we're talking about summary films, we're talking about vibes, and it does
Yeah.
have that chilled out, that party vibe.
Yeah,
But
you've just told me. You've just said it. I just like it. Just vibe with it. It's just like you can just sort of relax. You don't have to pay attention too much to any plot or anything like that because there isn't really a plot. It's just a group of kids having fun after school, and it's just one that you can enjoy with your friends. And I feel like summer's a time where you spend more time with your friends. Again, have a lot of drinks, have a lot of beers, and that's what this film's about: is hanging out with friends and drinking lots of alcohol.
who's your favourite character in it?
Matthew McConaughey's a very young Matthew McConaughey. He's got a young Ben Affleck in it. They're all really young. They've all got amazing haircuts. 'Cause set in the 70s, Texas 70s, very biographical. Because
I was going to
Linklater
say,
himself is from Texas.
I think it always adds a touch of realism when it's set when the director was actually going through the same life experiences.
It kind of means that they can put their experience into it, and you get to see a side of a director like maybe you wouldn't necessarily see with like a massive Hollywood blockbuster where it's very detached from the director, whereas you get a more personal touch with this.
It does feel like the director has lived part of this, which, as we know, he
He
has.
has.
Yeah. And it's the same sort of biographical context comes into it with Everybody Wants Some as well. I think he was a baseball player in his youth as well.
So if I remember rightly from when you last spoke about it, that's sort of the sequel, isn't it, to Dazed and Confused?
Yeah,
very much.
spiritual sequel.
Yeah, because Dazed and Confused is before they finish high school, isn't it?
Yes, is the final days of. Is it high school? I don't know what it is in America.
I
Get a bit
think it is.
confused.
High
Yeah.
school, yeah.
So everybody wants which it spoiler alert is going to be my pick to talk about, so we won't talk about it too much.
What are the chances?
I thought before I came on, I was like, I did wonder. I was like, will one of them do Dazed and Confused? And if it is, I bet it's Noah. Despite the 20-odd year gap in making the two, it might as well be the next day or the next month.
It's not the same character,
It's
is it?
It's not, no.
Yeah, it's the start of the school term, isn't it? I think Everybody Wants Some. But they're at university, I think, because obviously in America
Yes.
you study to play baseball, football, and it's just a weekend of drinking, isn't it?
Well, should we talk about? We might have to talk about the soundtrack as well.
Oh, bloody hell, yeah.
I was going to say, summer, like, when you think about summer, you think, I mean, this will come on maybe more when my pick, and I won't spoil it, but it's very me. And soundtracks are so important when it comes to summer, because we sit outside, as you were saying, and what do we put on? We have a chat and we put some music on.
We
So,
do.
does this soundtrack give off summer vibes, quote unquote?
Yeah.
And the music is also another. We're kind of dancing around nostalgia here as well, aren't we? Which summer films are inherently very nostalgic for a lot of people. And the music of the time, either when it's set or when it was released, depending on what film it is, has a big effect on that nostalgia, doesn't it? It's those sounds that you remember listening to when you were experiencing, a lot of the best days of people's lives happen in summer, don't they?
The music is predominantly, I think it's like 70s music, and although obviously I wasn't around in the 1970s, so I
You're
don't have the
joking.
nostalgia for it. But that soundtrack is timeless in many ways, and so I think that elevates the film's summer feel, and it just sort of gives off a everlasting effect that this film is just going to be quite good for a very long time, really.
Well, ironically, I think I think this applies to Everybody Wants Some and Dazed and Confused both. But by being set in a time before when they were released, it does make it more timeless, which doesn't make any sense, I know. But by not being contemporary, it does seem to to transverse those barriers. But the technology changes, but the experiences are the same, aren't they? You know, they're universal to well, certainly to us in Western culture. You know, it's a very similar thing.
Because it's not necessarily like it's not like a reflection of the time it was made. If it was like a contemporary film about, as you were saying, Jimmy, when it was made, it's, think about the best way to word this, a reflection of the perception of the past. You know, nostalgia plays into it quite a lot. I know a lot, you know, obviously at the moment Stranger Things is going on, and that's sort of like a reflection of the 80s. But as it's more of like a 20-year gap, if Dazed and Confused, or like a film similar to Dazed and Confused, was made today, it would be taking place around the early 2000s. And I just feel like it's weird, especially like as that's when we all kind of grew up. It's a very different kind of nostalgia because like each decade has its own distinct thing. And only recently have we started to see the early 2000s esque sort of style creep into like more modern cinema because all the previous decades have so much like pop culture and focus in media. That's what gets made more.
I'll tell you what I'll give to Dazed and Confused over Everybody Wants Some as well, in a rare bit of I don't know modesty from me. But I think Dazed and Confused mixes the harshness and the things that don't go right during summer in probably more realistically, if we don't want to use the term better, than Everybody Wants Some. I think that about 95% of Everybody Wants Some is a very good time, whereas in Dazed and Confused, there's at least a third of that film is bad things happening to people, really. But whether that's kind of more indicative of the high school experience compared to university in general, I don't know. But like Ben Affleck's trying to beat up somebody throughout the whole film, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a bully. I was going to pick up on something James just said about the 2000s and nostalgia. I very much think Superbad, when that came out, is playing into that as well.
Yeah.
Superbad is very much like Dazed and Confused in many ways, of just kids wanting to get drunk.
So this is a spiritual sequel. We're gonna go on to move on to talking about Everybody Wants Some, but there's 16 films between Dazed and Confused and Everybody Wants Some.
Well, because Dazed and Confused is what 94 or something, and Everybody Wants Some's 2015.
16.
Oh, 1 year off both times. I think for me as well, and sorry, no, because I know you love Dazed and Confused, and I'm not putting it down in any way, but I do think you see evolution as a filmmaker from Linklater between the two. Before we move on to Emma and James, have either of you picked Boyhood or Before Midnight or something?
No, this isn't going to be a Linklater focused podcast.
So, as Noah said earlier, Everybody Wants Some more or less takes off where Dazed and Confused left us. Instead of being high school, it's the first week before a group of baseball. I think they're based on a baseball scholarship, but I think they have to study other things before they start their first classes. And it's very much about, I guess, that time in your life. You know, for those who go to university, and what that first week of experience is like before you get into the boring classes and meet people like these three. But no, it's all about that. It's all about the people you meet and the experiences you have. And maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but I think more than in Dazed and Confused, the love angle, the romance angle is explored as well. It's a bit more, perhaps overly sentimental. It's very much there's hardly any conflict in Everybody Wants Some. There's a little bit, and then it gets resolved like that. Just to give some background, I saw this, I think, a week or maybe two before I started university, which is because it came out just before we did, which was perfect. And it was being shown in hardly any cinemas. And I went and saw this, and it left me with such a feel-good feeling, and it made me so excited to go to university. And it wasn't quite as cool as it is in the film, but it was all right.
But I think maybe we should just quickly touch on that. I know we've done an episode on university and doing film at university, but like,
Mm.
it is important to say that the films you see in the depiction of university or college, that's not what it is.
No,
And I think all four of us can say that we had a good time and we made some good friends, but it wasn't a party life all the time, apart from maybe Noah. But like, it wasn't all party
It wasn't all
party.
fun and games.
I think it's those little moments that everybody wants captures very well. It's stupid little amazingly fun moments like that. A bit like there isn't really a through arc in this film. I'd say there's a little bit more with Jake trying to get with the performing arts student.
Zoe Dutch is the actor, but I don't remember her
Yes,
name.
yes, it is. But no, it's moments like when they're in the car singing "Rapper's Delight," and this being set in the '80s, it's got that same nostalgic feel. But it's the little moments that I think make. I don't know. I'd almost argue make summer films in general, and it hits an accord with something you remember, in you.
A key difference in the
Beautiful.
films is the characters as well, because I think in the Everybody Wants Some, there's that character, I can't remember his name, but he's the really mad, wacky guy who like gets kicked out of the club. I think the differences in the film is that the characters in Everybody Wants Some film are a bit more, what's the word, hyperbolic and a bit more
Mm.
extreme, whereas Dazed and Confused has a
Farcical.
more realistic sort of like, these are kind of people who just finished school and just want to chill out a bit. And I think with Everybody Wants Some, it plays more characters for laughs.
Mm.
That's
And
not a criticism, but I think that's
no,
like the
no.
key difference in the films.
I think in both films there are some really nice things you would want to hear at that stage in your life too. There's a bit where they're in the bar and Wyatt Russell again before he did Black Mirror and became Captain America, and he's talking to another character and he's like, "Oh, you've got to stop like feeling awkward. You've got to let out your inner weird, and nobody will judge you for it. Like just be weird." And I think both films kind of encapsulate that very well, and it's a nice message that I think people, particularly of that age and that stage in their life, need to hear. Don't be so self-conscious. You can be who you want to be, and really kind of live the life you want to live.
Are we Linklated?
Yeah, the only last thing I'll say is I really wish that the Blu-ray had an audio commentary, but it doesn't.
Oh,
You'd love that.
you
If
do
there's
love
That
ever
would be
two,
right good.
Jimmy in
well, I mean,
commentaries, bloody hell.
oh, if there's ever any films where you'd want commentaries, it's like these two intensely personal
Mm.
films. And then it's like, nah, I made it now. I love those sorts of commentaries because you get all the on-set stories and you get a feel for what the experience was like, the film being made. But I feel they're very different to the commentaries when you have either the director or the writer, where it's
Yeah.
very much about how I came up with this story and why I wanted to do that. I want to have like an insight into Linklater's life
Link,
through an
link,
audio
link,
commentary.
link into Linklater's life.
I do
Yeah,
have one more
yeah.
final point,
Go on.
Mhm.
and it's Jimmy. Me and you like this film. We both identify as boys, and this is a film very much centered around the group of boys. Do you think we
100%.
would still have as much plaudits for it as if we were a girl?
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think it's very much a male experience film. I think that's important to acknowledge that. To be fair, it is sexist in parts owing to the time that it's set in the 1980s, definitely.
Oh, I was going to say 2016.
No, no. It's a really interesting question because it's not at all a film about the female experience, and there probably are films out there, but it would be interesting to see a film told from like Beverly's side and the female experience because a lot of it would be universal because a lot of it I think everybody wants something about insecurity and the feelings we all feel particularly when we go to university, but I feel that would be very interesting to see that told from the female perspective and from a female
Yeah.
story.
Big up women.
Big up
Um,
them women.
Talking about the female experience, I've picked a film probably, I don't know, maybe you will like it. You've definitely heard of it, and you've probably seen it, and actually, I think you guys are pretty open-minded. I think you'll enjoy it. So I've gone for a 2008 film that is a musical.
Oh, I think I know this film.
gone for Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
Just because I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, summer, what's summer to me? And to me, like, summer is, you know, the beach, hanging out with your friends, like we've mentioned, you know, songs, fun. And what's more fun, beachy and songy than Mamma Mia? So, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, it's all about this woman who's going to marry a man, and she goes to this island where her mum runs a shack or whatnot, and she finds out through the diary that she might have three, well, she doesn't have three dads, but there's three potential people that could be her dad. And it's just exploring that and going, like, and finding out who her dad is, and it's a bit fun. It's just a good time, isn't it?
Have we all seen it?
I think I've seen like bits of it, but I haven't sat down and been like, oh, you know, today's the day I watch Mamma Mia.
I hadn't seen it until about. I've definitely seen it for the first time in the last 6 months. You do have to watch it. It is unabashedly great.
It's such a happy, like, you just feel the vibes. And like, I know musicals might not be all of your guys' thing, and that's fine, it's not everyone's thing, but in this one it's kind of like, I mean, it does use music for music's sake, but it also uses it to puts it to a use, and a good use, and it makes you feel poppy and, ooh, I'm at the beach and all that fun stuff.
It's such you can't talk about Mamma Mia without talking about the music. It's such a part of the DNA of the film, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's like the whole point of the film was, let's write a film for ABBA's music.
It was a stage show before that, wasn't it? It was like a proper stage musical that they actually adapted into the film Mamma Mia.
It's kind of like a Bridget Jones. Well,
It sounds like Star
I love
Wars,
Bridget Jones,
really.
you know that, but it is.
Yeah, there's lots of parallels you can draw.
It's a little bit more beachy than Star Wars.
I mean, there's loads of sand planets in Star Wars.
So, is it no, what was it? What's the sand desert?
Yeah.
Tatooine.
That's it. Yeah, there you go.
I don't think we can draw too many parallels between Star Wars: A New Hope and Mamma Mia.
Well, we're trying.
Like,
they both have banging soundtracks.
We've got a feel-good cast. We've got Meryl Streep, Amanda Seyfried, Pierce Brosnan, Colin Firth.
Emma, what is your favourite scene / song in the film?
I love the bit near the start where she's got the diary and she's like reading the bits, and I just love the fact that it flows nicely into like the song, and like, oh, it's just a good start, and it's just beautiful Greek island. Who doesn't want to be on a Greek island right now? Like, look out your window and tell me you don't want to be on a Greek island right now.
The scenery.
I basically am with the sun outside.
In Portsmouth. Greece, Portsmouth.
Oh, I'll go down and go.
Both got beaches. There you go. That's it.
It's not Lens by Roger Deakins, but
nobody is saying a summer film needs to be a spectacle.
But
it's just how it makes you feel.
But it kind of is at the same. It does have great locations that I think if it wasn't set in Greece, it wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking rubbish, but by having these amazing locations, it really. I think it fits the bombastic nature of the film, doesn't it?
The location scout was like, do you know what? If I'm going to do this film, I want to be on holiday. So
we're all having an all-expensive paid trip to Greece.
Smart.
Yeah. And you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And hats off to Meryl Streep. It's all her dancing, it's all her singing, and as always, it's all her acting. And I think she does a bloody good job on all three accounts. Pierce Brosnan, on the other hand, does not.
Oh.
But that makes it even better.
I love a dance. I love a sing song. I love a sing song, and you can do it all with this. Like, there's just smiling from start to finish. I know that Noah and James, you haven't seen it, but do you like ABBA music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who does?
Then the film's sold.
I mean,
Sold
is it
itself.
really? You can't just
It's
say, oh,
literally
you like these
full of
songs and you
ABBA
like this film.
James, I think you would like it.
Probably.
It's the sort of film that, as a bloke, you're like, I'm not watching that, and then you put it on and you watch it and you're like, you know what, this is good.
But look, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm part of the podcast. I made you guys watch Bridget Jones.
Yeah, that went really well.
Little Mermaid. You know, I'm here to push your boundaries and show you that feminine touch, and show you it's okay to like these films.
Yeah.
Stop being
Damn
so sexist,
straight.
guys. Come on.
How do you think it speaks to the female experience? Is what I was going to ask. Or is it not that deep?
I wouldn't say it was that deep because, like, you know, romance is very different for everybody. I think that you can't display it as such. Maybe more as I've grown up, more like Donna's experience and the pressure she feels to, like, want to do it all, be it all, and having your gals to cheer you up when you want to hide in the toilets.
Oh.
But I don't know if it necessarily speaks to the female experience. I don't think that's what its aim was. I think if it wanted to do that, it wouldn't be a musical because otherwise it would be too trivialized. I feel like it would be so hard to pinpoint the female experience anyway, because especially, like, you know, in today's age, what is a female?
And what is the experience?
Yeah, everybody decides differently. Like, my version of femininity and who I am might be different to another woman. James, your version of your masculinity and how you identify as you is completely different to Jimmy's. I don't know if it speaks necessarily to a female experience, apart from, I mean, what woman, man, human being doesn't want to go to a beach in Greece?
Some films are just made to have, you know, have a good time with.
Damn
I
straight.
agree, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think,
Huh?
you know, a lot of the time people are like, what is the message? What is it trying to say? And it's like, well, maybe it's not trying to say anything.
I think that's maybe what critics couldn't get over, isn't it? They were looking at it so deeply for this hidden depth, and it's like, dude,
Let's just
relax.
have a good time, man. Yeah.
The winner
They
takes it
should
all.
have been at the premiere. Should have been handing out like Cosmopolitans, Sex on the Beach. We'd all be having a great time.
As we're on the topic, what's your guys' favourite ABBA song?
Or is it Chiquitos?
Chiquitos, the restaurant chain. Chiquitos.
I meant Chiquitico.
Chica.
What's it actually called? Chiquitito. Chiquitito?
No, it's not.
Chiquita,
actually
isn't it?
called
It can't be
that.
Chiquito.
Chiquita. Hold on, I've got ABBA's greatest hits over here,
Chiquitita.
right?
Chiquitita, I think.
Chiquitica.
Chiquitita.
Chicken tikka.
Chiquitita.
I just made that connection.
Oh, chicken tikka.
Chicken tikka. Tell me what.
It's Chiquiquita.
Chiquitita.
Can you see it? You can't even see it.
Chicken tikka. Tell me what's wrong.
Chicken tikka. There's that one there. You can't see it. Cracking album.
So yeah.
Oh, I like Dancing Queen. What about
After
you?
all that, you said Dancing Queen. But yeah, Noah, what's your favourite?
Either SOS or Gimme, Gimme, Gimme a Man
That's a
after
good one.
midnight.
Yeah.
Oh, that is bang.
Won't somebody help
somebody
me
help
chasing shadows away?
Away.
And I like Does Your Mother Know? Is what
Did you
I've
mother
named
know,
3
yeah?
now and I just can't decide.
Go on, Jambo.
Jambo. Oh god. I mean, I'm
Right,
very
Jambo.
boring with my picks. I like the good ones. I like Mamma Mia, and I like Winner Takes It All. Those are my two. Jimbo.
I do like Knowing Me, Knowing You as an Alan
Uh-huh.
Partridge fan.
No.
Me knowing
and-
you.
When I were a young boy, Dancing Queen was my jam, which I think says a lot about me.
It probably still is, Jimmy. You're
As I
just
said,
too,
everyone has different experiences.
you know.
Yeah, it's true. We would
Alright,
both
that
segue, but none of us know what James's film is.
That
The
leaves
mystery.
Back to the
the
future.
one.
No, it's not.
That leaves the one,
E.T.
the only. James.
Indiana
James.
Jones.
Sorry, it says
Here
full
we go.
name.
It's
James-
James's pick,
James
and I'm
Harrison.
going to just tell you guys now. I doubt that any of you are probably going to have heard of this film, but we're going to roll with it. So I'm going to take you all back to a time where summer comedies were box office hits, where people could, well, studios mainly, could get some comedic people from like SNL and tell them, hey, make a movie with characters that's funny. And they're like, we can do that. And then from that, loads of money came in. And it was like, oh, this is easy. And then they just kept doing it and doing it. So you get your Wayne's Worlds, your Austin Powers, Bridesmaids, Zoolander, all the Adam Sandlers of like the 90s still kind of count. And then there was a point, I think, like start of the 2010s ish. I think like as soon as like the 2000s ended, modern movie watching and like franchise building and all that shit just decided to become way more popular. And for some reason, comedies just sort of dip a little bit. Like obviously you had like your Hangover Part 1, 2, 3, whatever. But that's still a franchise, and after a while you get like, oh, we'll bring Anchorman back, we bring Zoolander back, and then nobody really cares anymore. You see any comedies coming out nowadays in cinemas that people go and see? Not really a whole lot. Or at least not to the level that it was back in the 90s, mid-2000s and that. They're either like really small, you have to look for them, they're like more indie films that are funny, or you get Netflix movies.
Come on, James, stop filibustering. Tell us what
I'm
it is.
getting to it, Jimmy, all right? And there hasn't been an attempt at a movie of that kind since last year. There was a little film that was getting a lot of buzz on the old internets that looked quite funny, and I thought, oh, it's available now, I'll watch it. And it's a film that's very, very stupid, but it's basically just a send-up to those classic movies that don't get made anymore. And it's called Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar.
Oh, I have heard of it.
Oh, he has heard of it. Wow, amazing.
It was on an episode of Screen Drafts, I believe.
Oh, was it really? It's a film about two middle-aged, Midwestern, like, mum-type characters.
Oh my god, I saw this advertised!
Yeah, there you go. So people do know it. And so they're like small-town women, and then one day they get fired from the furniture store that they both work at. Then they're like, oh no, our lives are going down the shitter a bit, we're having a bit of a midlife crisis. What do we do? Then one of their friends say, hey, you should go to Vista Del Mar, which is in Florida. And it's like this Floridian resort with like the beaches and like the sky blue sea and like pools and like cocktails. And they're like, that's where we're going to go. And then they go there and chaos ensues. Meanwhile, a supervillain who is allergic to sunlight is trying to release killer mosquitoes to kill everyone in Vista Del Mar. So there are two different films happening here. One is like an Austin Powers sort of weird Dr. Evil plot, and one of them is just Kristen Wiig and a mate just doing really silly shit. I've never seen a comedy, especially one of this like caliber or like style specifically, that has come back and done it so well, so like pitch perfect, that it just makes me miss that sort of filmmaking. Even with like the Netflix stuff, everything there feels so like disposable. Like you can watch a film and then forget about it the next day. Like, and I watched Barb and Star last year, and I still remember the bits that made me like burst out laughing. I haven't even mentioned Jamie Dornan's in this film from 50 50 Shades fame, who works for the evil supervillain, and he sort of gets entangled with Barb and Star as they go on their holiday. And he has like a music video like 3/4 of the way through the film that is just completely out of the blue. It's just, this film is insane. I love it. But unfortunately, I've got to bring the mood down again. So this film was planned to release in 2020. What happened in 2020, guys? Oh, you know, that pesky old pandemic. It reared its head and was like, oh, we're going to stop everything. And it did. So it got pushed back 2021. Obviously, it was still a bit risky around like early to mid 2021. But they took their risk and was like, you know, we'll release it in a few screens and put it on demand, and hopefully it'll do well enough. Anybody want to have a guess what the box office returns for this film were?
What was the budget?
I'm guessing it was probably like a couple million. Like, it probably wouldn't be more than 2 if I was to guess. But
I reckon it made $500,000.
500,000. Emma, any guesses?
Was he higher or lower?
I can't tell you.
You can't do that.
Can't do that. That's cheating.
What streaming service did it go on?
It wasn't on. It was just on demand. It was like if you go into like Sky Store or like the iTunes Store and stuff.
So you'd have to pay like, okay, so normally it's like £3 to rent.
Yeah.
100,000.
100,000. So this film, it was the bombiest bomb of recent years. It made a meager $32,000.
Oh my
God.
Yeah.
That is a massive loss.
It is insane how big of a loss that is. And especially when you see the film and you're like, oh wow, this is actually surprisingly well made. It's got like sets and weird effects and like puppetry and like crazy.
Who's the director? Josh Greenbaum.
Yeah, like I don't really know what else he's done. And this was his first like proper, I guess, studio film you could call it. And
It
yeah,
looks
it
like
didn't go
it.
well. And
No, it didn't, did
I
it?
think if this film came out, as I said, mid 2000s to like early 2010s, it would rake in like hundreds of millions, easy.
Yeah.
Which is such a
Do you
shame.
think the issue was the pandemic, or do you think they just didn't market it right? Because everybody was kind of at home. People were going to the cinema, but not as much. So do you think if there was a better marketing drive, then it would have been
It
better off?
it was a mix of things. Pandemic especially killed any chance this film had of making back its budget. It was just not feasible, no matter how long they held on to it. You know, you can't take the risk and release it and then, you know, come back to diminishing returns. And that's sort of, unfortunately, what ended up happening. Not only that, it was like rental and on-demand stuff. So they weren't even putting it onto like an Amazon Prime or a Netflix or something that like, oh, it's available to see because we have the subscription. It's behind a paywall for that one movie. It's a mix of those two things and the fact that these kind of, as I said, these films don't get made anymore. And it's not the kind of thing that people will go out to see. And it's a damn shame because I feel like this film may have killed this genre for good. Even if it was really, really good. I think after what happened to it and the unfortunate nature of its release and how much money it made back, I feel like we ain't getting another one of these kinds of films probably ever again.
It's strange though, isn't it? Because don't we need comedy now more than ever after the last 2 years?
I think
exactly.
So.
And with what's going on in the world. And you're right, James. This is kind of like, in a way, this should have been the perfect-ish time for this to come out. I think we all need a bit of distraction. But if you look at what's in the cinema, like at the moment, the closest thing to a comedy is like probably Doctor Strange, right?
Yeah, and even that's not really like a comedy, is it?
Well, everything everywhere all at once is a comedy.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's partly why it was so good.
What James has brought up is pure comedy.
Yeah, it's true.
What you guys are suggesting are like part comedy genres. It doesn't rely on the fact that it's a comedy. It relies on the fact it's Doctor Strange, or it's kind of a kooky, thrillery comedy.
And Emma brings up a fantastic point, because I feel like comedies specifically can't just be comedies anymore. They need to be more than what they are in order to get other people to go and see them. As Emma said, like, you need to have the crazy cameos and the weird effects of like a Doctor Strange Marvel movie, or you've got to have like sort of the introspective comedy drama A24-esque style to get in like the more indie crowd people. It's just different audiences and different ways we watch movies nowadays just affect like how studios make their films. Like, I mean, I hate to bring it up, I kind of didn't want to, but I feel like it's topical enough. So Morbius, everybody knows about Morbius nowadays. It was a terrible studio-made film that people thought it was going to be like, because they were like, oh, let's make like our own Marvel-y like cinematic universe thing and tie it in with the multiverse because Spider-Man's doing that, and then that failed catastrophically, creepy. And then people memed it to hell. And for the studios are like, people are interested again, put it back in cinemas, and then it made like 85,000, and then it failed again. Which is, like, in a way, it still made back 85,000 more than it did previous. And that is still 85,000 more than Barb and Star did.
What else do you love about Barb and Star? Is it perfectly cast? Is Kristen Wiig, like, the perfect woman to bring
Does Jamie Dornan take his top off?
He does. Yeah, he rips it off in the music video.
There we go. I mean, do you reckon he's, in every movie, he's just contractually obliged to be, like, must have top off for at least 30 seconds of film?
Well, like, I feel like when they cast Jamie Dornan, they did a very specific thing. Because the whole film's about these two, like, middle-aged women going on holiday to Florida. And, of course, you cast, like, hunky Jamie Dornan as sort of the love interest to, like, 3 different characters. I haven't even mentioned, by the way, that Kristen Wiig not only plays Barb, but she also plays the supervillain in the movie. Sort of in, like, an Austin Powers-esque way, where she's got, like, bleach white skin and, like, a weird haircut and shit.
Shame we don't see more comedy, though.
Yeah. It's just the culture we live in nowadays. It's a different
It's all about
era.
that, isn't it?
All about the Wonga, and as soon as you don't get it, it's donezo.
Everybody loves a laugh, though. It's the safest thing to watch at the cinema.
Well, do you think that has anything to do with the people who say you can't take the mickey out of X and X without, what is it? Cancel culture, basically. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
I feel
Yeah,
Yeah, but I don't think comedy. So I can understand the cancel culture, like everyone's scared of being cancelled, but then maybe just don't make jokes that'll get you cancelled.
I don't
Yeah.
really believe in it either. I just think it's people like Piers Morgan who just say it because they think they can just say whatever they want because they are a white man.
I guess to tie it back in just a little bit, like Barb and Star isn't really a film that's full of many jokes that you can be like, oh, that's very insensitive, or it's like, oh, it's very cancel culture. It's just sort of like, it's not that kind of film.
It's not irreverent like a Ricky Gervais. It's not. Was it Afterlife or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not trying to poke fun. Again, it's not trying to be more than just comedy.
Yeah.
It's just strictly comedy. It's not being like, oh, it's comedy but with an edge, or it's comedy is trying to say something. It's comedy but ain't playing by no rules. I can do what I want. Some
I
things
think
could
we
just
need more.
purely, as we said with Mamma Mia, some things can just be pure entertainment without being much more. And Barb and Star, in the same vein as Mamma Mia, is that kind of film.
Shall we sum up in one line what summer means to us?
Aww,
Oh,
that's cute. Is anyone going to do it?
Go first.
good
Go on, Jimmy, you can
times.
start if you want to do that.
Noah says good times.
Yeah.
That's 2
Not
words.
to say you can't have a good time in the winter, but you know what I mean.
It's just better in that.
It's just harder, particularly with fuel
The
bills being what
beach.
they are. The beach, Emma says the beach. Good times at the beach. Go on, Jane. You can have more than 2 words.
No, 2 words. That's what we're doing now. Cold drinks.
Oh yeah.
Nothing like a cold drink
A
on a hot
nice
day, mate.
fat glass of Coke.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of
Little bit of
cider.
ice.
Oh, cider, yeah. Oh, yeah. Jimbo, 2 words.
Sunburn.
Sunburn.
You can see it maybe a bit on my neck at the moment.
Oh, no.
Show us, girl. Go on.
No.
Oh my god!
It is a bit.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell. Oh, dear.
It's so bad. You need to put
it's like not on this
You need
side.
your fat to 50 on, mate.
That's from being non-sun creamed up at the D-Day show.
The D-Day show.
D-Day. Do you mean Jubilee?
No, I went to a D-Day a D-Day event.
Yeah, it's
How was the
the
D-Day event?
anniversary today, isn't it?
Did you
Yeah,
land
it
the
is.
boat?
It is on the 6th of the 6th.
Oh, happy
is.
D-Day.
We'll fight them on the beaches.
Yeah, it's linked back to beaches again, isn't it?
Beaches of Normandy.
Oh,
Cool.
no, to end
I
on.
don't really think I don't think summer. Oh, D-Day landings.
When I think summer films, I think Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Saving Private
And the
Ryan.
funny thing about it was delayed a couple of days due to bad weather. And that sums up British weather, doesn't it? Because they couldn't go because it was too foggy.
Oh, no.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're going to end today's
Isn't
episode.
that right, Jimmy?
Yeah.
I hope you've enjoyed our dive into the summer.
Summer loving had me a blast.
Having a blast. Anyone got any last minute urges?
If you like pina colada.
Getting caught in the rain.
Rain. And
Rain.
on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. We have been 4 Struggling Filmmakers. We will see you in the near future.
At some point.
Or distant future. Enjoy, and we will catch you in the next one.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great summer. See you in winter.
Okay. So.
You almost vomit. Great start, guys.